Well, hello there, guys, and welcome to the first ever debrief episode of Finding Your Casual Magic. Hi, my name is Jade, and on this podcast, we explore how to find beauty in the little mundane things of every day, reminding ourselves that happiness is not just found at the end of big achievements, but can be found every single day, right here, right now. In today's cozy little episode, we're talking about how to find casual magic when you're starting something new and letting go of your idea of how something should be. Basically, every fourth episode of the podcast is going to be what I call a debrief episode. This is where I'm just sitting alone at home, or in today's case, I'm on holiday with my family. So very abnormally dressed in a little cute butterfly bikini top and listening to crickets in the back. And I want this episode to feel like a behind the scenes. I want to let you guys in on the tea of what it was actually like to record the last 3 episodes. Like all the miserable kerfuffle in the background that you'll never see because you only see the beautiful edited upload. What's going through my mind as an interviewer, and most importantly, what my personal insights and takeaways have been from the last few episodes, because I feel so consistently privileged that I get to interview such wise, incredible, diverse voices, and I walk away from the episodes with so many new insights and perspectives on my life, and I'd love to share those with you. So maybe it inspires you to go back and listen to an episode that you didn't watch, and maybe you can tell me what stuck with you and we can exchange insights. So please get cozy, grab yourself a little mug of tea, or if it's also hot and summery for you, maybe a little ice cold drink. And wherever you are, whether you're commuting, you're on the train, you're cycling, you're walking your dog, I really hope that this little pocket of time can be a moment to kind of stop, breathe, reflect on your life. And I'm so grateful and honoured that you're here. Before we jump into the first 2 rituals of every episode, I want to share something so exciting. Do you know what happened last week, guys? I was on a billboard in Leicester Square in London. I'm literally in awe even as I say that. Like, how did that happen? The wonderful Spotify decided that they wanted to put our podcast on a billboard in Leicester Square, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's one of the most iconic landmarks in London. It's where all the big movie premieres happen, like the red carpet. I went along with my brother and my ex-boyfriend, who's one of my best friends now, and my wonderful creative assistant, Francesca, and we just went and basked in the glory of getting to see kind of like our hard work being on a platform like the billboard there. So thank you all so much for tuning in and listening and sending in your casual magic every week. And yeah, it's such an honor to be able to host this podcast, to have it recognized in that way. If you want to see the pics, I'll put them on screen now, or you can also go to my Instagram. Very cool. Casual magic is moving up in the world. Okay, let's dive into the rituals. So our first ritual is that we're going to listen to a moment of casual magic that one of you guys has sent in. It always just makes me so happy to remember that this is a community of real people, and maybe you'll see some of yourself in this little beautiful moment that Habiba has shared today.
Hi Jade, I'm a clinical pharmacist from Cheltenham. I've been fully qualified for a little over a year now, but on occasion I get major imposter syndrome.
You guys are so intelligent.
I had just finished a telephone medication review with a patient and I felt so incredibly useless. I didn't think I'd help too much, although I really wanted to. After the phone call, one of my colleagues said something along the lines of, if my grandparents were alive, I'd want you to take care of them. He said it so casually in a laid-back way that I don't think he realised how much that has now changed my life. I can't stop thinking about it, honestly. To consider my knowledge and skills worthy enough, to trust me enough to want me involved in the care of someone he would have loved so deeply. Isn't it funny how something he mentioned so casually has just given me new life? Words are so powerful and we really can do so much good with them.
Whoa, that gave me chills. I so relate to the experience of imposter syndrome. It's funny how you can get all the qualifications, you can do all the right things, you can be in the fancy job. In my case, you can have a freaking billboard in Leicester Square, and yet you still might not believe in yourself and you still might doubt yourself. And how special that they shared these words with you. If their grandparents were alive, like they would want them to be in your care. That is so special. I actually had a kind of similar moment the other day that just made me cry, which is maybe why this is giving me chills. My brother told me that he really wants me to be a huge part of his kids' lives. Like one day when he has kids, he just really wants me to be a big part in raising them because he wants them to be like me and to learn from me. And that just meant the absolute world to him. Okay, and the second ritual is that I would love to invite you to take a moment to breathe with me, to ground into the present moment, to do a little meditation I'm going to guide us through. I dare you to put your phone on Do Not Disturb. I dare you not to scroll. I dare you to commit to being here. Even if you're commuting or can't close your eyes, just kind of try to ground into the present moment where you are. I'd like to invite you to get back into your senses. So before we do anything else, can you look around you and notice 3 objects that you can see? What can you see in your vision right now? And when you've noticed those objects, can you gently close your eyes? And start to notice the sounds around you. Are you able to isolate 3 sounds without judging them, without needing to know what they are? And slowly, can you start to become aware of your breathing in your body? Noticing the rise and fall of your chest and belly as you inhale and exhale. And can you maybe notice the points of contact with your body and the earth? Whether you're standing up or sitting on a chair. Where is your body on the ground? We're going to take a final deep breath in through the nose. Make it the deepest breath you've taken all day. And when you're ready, a big exhale through the mouth. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Welcome to the episode. Guys, it never fails to amaze me how much one deep breath can change something in your mind. Can change the pace of your body, can rest your nervous system a little bit. I love to start by asking you rhetorically into the void, how is your heart feeling today? How is your heart? Is it feeling tender? Is it feeling open? Is it feeling judgmental and critical? Is it feeling warm and loving? Like, where is your heart today? My heart today is in a good place. I've been with my family for a few days now. But a few days ago, I was really not in a good place. I had an online call with my therapist and she said, Jade, this is the most dissociated and dysregulated that I've ever seen you since working with you. So yeah, this is a reminder never to romanticize the lives of online people. I'm obviously not going to go into all the details of what's been happening in my personal life, but your girl has been struggling. So if you have also been struggling, I just want to have this moment to say that that's okay. All parts of the human experience, no matter how frustrating, are valuable. And I want to remind you that whatever state you're in right now is impermanent. Okay, Slay. So, the podcast. We're in season 2 now, guys. How cool is this? It's been 3 episodes. This week is going to be this debrief episode, the 4th episode. And yeah, I'd love to speak to how it's been so far. I kind of briefly touched on it in the first episode, the one that I shot in this studio in London. But I really debated if I wanted to continue the podcast. I don't think I anticipated just how much work it would be to continually hit upload every week, you know, from guest liaison to research to editing, thumbnail design, reading guest books and stuff. It's so much work and it is really fruitful and rewarding, but particularly when there's this element of like, this is not a money-making endeavor, like I never expected it to be. But yeah, it was a lot of stress of like, how am I going to make this financially work? And is it worth it? And do people care enough about the podcast? And just all these things that led to like a lot of self-critical thought. And it was actually when I shot the first episode of season 2 that I think I truly internalized how disconnected I felt from the podcast. On the surface, everything was fine and great. I did all this research, felt really proud of the episode we were making, was trying a new production team, had new people in the room, potential fresh energy. But I'm such a gut feeling and intuition driven person, and I just was not feeling it. I was not feeling happy, did not want to make the podcast, didn't want to be in the studio, was a bit like, how the hell am I going to get through another season of this? Why do I feel so tight and uninspired? Especially because I ran a Casual Magic community event a few months ago in the middle of the woods in Brighton, and 150 of you came. I just felt amazing. Like, being in the presence of you guys in person is unfathomably energizing for me. I love it. I love you guys. I love connecting to you. I love having conversations with you about mindfulness. And so many people who came to this event also expressed how meaningful the podcast has been for them. So I was like, why do I feel so disconnected from it? If I can have these really connecting moments with you guys in person, I know that this project is really meaningful. Why do I feel so tight, so unmotivated, so uninspired? And it revealed something in myself, which is a really strong unwillingness to change things. Have you guys heard of the sunk cost fallacy? This is a behavioral bias where people make decisions based on past energy and past investments rather than present or future costs and benefits. So you are acting based on how you have acted in the past. So let's say you're doing a medicine degree, you're 3 years in, you have invested so much time, energy, reputation into pursuing this medicine degree. If you were to now give up, there is such a strong sunk cost fallacy that you've wasted your time, you've wasted your experience. And so even if you knew that you didn't want to be a doctor, even if you knew you'd hate the rest of your degree, you might finish it. You might spend the next 3 years finishing that medicine degree to avoid the sunk cost fallacy bias. And I think similarly for me with the podcast, I had invested so much time, money, energy into finding the right production team, the right studio, cover art, marketing, time, like all of these things. Firstly, it didn't even feel like an option to not do the podcast because of sunk cost fallacy and having invested so much into it. But more importantly, I spent so much time and energy finding the logistics around it. And so to give up on that felt like giving up. And I don't want to be someone who gives up. But my God, I am so grateful that one of my best friends, Mary Lane, was staying with me in Brighton, and she witnessed me have a bit of a breakdown after recording that first episode. Mary Lane has been there since the podcast was just an idea in my head, and she's seen me go from being super energized and enlivened by the thought of the Casual Magic podcast to it feeling like this progressive burden. I'm not even joking, guys. I sat effectively like in her lap crying for 40 minutes, just all the reasons I didn't want to do the podcast. And she was just so loving and helpful in helping me get to the core of what was making me feel stuck. And a lot of it was the rigidity. Yeah, like how sterile and corporate I'd almost made the podcast feel. It didn't feel fun. You guys know I'm a spiritual girly, so I did a tarot card reading about the podcast, and the main card of advice was not to abandon the podcast or to stop it altogether or to continue. It was the card that represented inner child creativity. How can I bring fresh creativity to this podcast so that it doesn't feel like a burden? And it was just so important for me to have this incentive to reimagine this whole podcast, what would make it fun again. And I realised I don't want to be in London. I don't want to be in Shoreditch. I want to ignore every single podcast expert who has told me that I need a studio in London. I want to ignore them. Everyone has told me, Jade, you need somewhere accessible. You need somewhere that a fancy, high caliber guest who is traveling in from the US and who is only in London for 2 days could easily come to a podcast. Accessibility matters more than ambience and comfort. But I don't like London. London's not my place. I go to London and I feel like a muted version of myself. And so from next week onwards, guys, we are changing things. I am going to be shooting in a community space in the middle of the forest in Brighton in a giant yurt. Can you imagine that? It's like a teepee in the forest, and it's on this really sacred land that this wonderful Afro-Colombian man found many years ago. He found this 20 million year old ammonite fossil on this land and then decided to build a community spiritual hub around it, and they do community events and they honor the Celtic wheel, and it's just a space that every time I go there I feel like a more grounded, more energetically amplified version of me, and that is where I want to bring guests. That's where I want to record the podcast. I also want to funnel money and resources into this loving community space, so yeah, even if it means it's less accessible and that maybe I don't get as many guests wanting to come on the podcast, it feels so worth it to me. And I'm so excited for you guys to experience that space from next week onwards. It's so important to have the courage to try new things and to not get stuck and bogged down in our routines just because we've committed to it in the past. Don't let your pride and your ego of being right, of your past self being right, and you're having those like perfectionistic tendencies about what your life should look like, and not wanting to admit that things are wrong, not wanting to admit defeat, get in the way of you experiencing the highest version of yourself and your career life. If there's part of you that is feeling really stuck in your life, I would lovingly dare you to ask if that stuckness is actually coming from fear of change. And if you really let yourself admit that fear, to potentially hold that fear with friends as well, who can let you cry to them, you can show your vulnerabilities to show that not everything's perfect in your life all the time, then perhaps you can gain the courage to try something new. It can be small, it can be a little change, it can be asking your boss for a 4-day work week rather than a 5-day work week, it can be setting more boundaries at work, it can be taking on a new project, whatever it is. How can you invite newness, some fresh newness? Okay, so coming back to the episodes, my biggest takeaway from episode 1 is all my research around polyvagal theory. If you haven't listened to episode 1, I'd highly recommend listening to the second half of it, because I talk about nervous system regulation, and it's been some of the most life-changing knowledge I've ever gleaned from my cognitive science degree and also from therapy. It's this idea that at any one time, our nervous system is in a different state. We can be in fight or flight, we can be in shutdown, or ideally we can be in this thing called the ventral vagal state, which is where we're open to learning, we're receptive to connection, we see beauty in the world and in ourselves, and it is in this wonderful regulated state that everything in life just seems to flow. And in that episode, I talk about how casual magic, this practice of finding little beautiful things in your everyday that are casually magic, can help shift you out of fight or flight and shift you into a more regulated nervous system. Because do you know what you need in order to notice casual magic? You need to slow down enough. You need to pause. You potentially need to ground yourself into your body. You need to breathe a little. If you're washing the dishes on autopilot, in order for that moment to become a moment of casual magic, you need to take a second, right? You need to feel the gratitude for the food that you've just eaten, for the luxury of running water, to kind of notice the sensations of the water running along your fingertips as you're washing the dishes. And it's only from that more grounded place that you then notice, wow, this moment's kind of beautiful. Wow, I'm so lucky to be alive. Wow, I love that I get to have a conversation with my partner or my friend, my housemate, as I'm washing the dishes. And the more casual magic you find, the more regulated your nervous system is. And the beauty is, the more regulated your nervous system is, the more naturally you find casual magic. So it is this reinforcing feedback loop. Finding the casual magic means you're more regulated, more calm. The calmer you are, the more you find casual magic. So that was my main takeaway from episode 1. And if you want to dive into that more, I highly recommend going and listening to it. Okay, and then we have episode 2, where I interviewed the wonderful Coralia. Guys, I had never met Coralia before, but I just so desperately wanted to interview her because I loved her content. I'd been following her and her ex-boyfriend Karam. They had like quite a public relationship, and I followed them both for years. I loved her content, loved her energy. And so, can you believe this? This is the kind of person that I am. I not only invited her to come on the podcast, I invited her to come for a sleepover for the whole weekend in Brighton. And as I say, we never met before. So when I think of interviewing her for Finding Your Casual Magic, I think about my entire weekend with Coralia. And she is just such a wonderful listener, so present in conversation. The way that she holds eye contact with you is really special. And that episode day was actually I'm so grateful it was her. So grateful that she's so patient and generous, because wow, guys, we had a rough time setting up the podcast. I wish you guys could have actually experienced the stress in the room to see what a miracle that episode was, that it actually happened and was calm in the end, because I was trialing a new videography team, new freelance team, because I just really didn't want to have loads of people in the room, and I've been trying to find videographers who have similar spiritual values and believe in the podcast from a heart and values place. But we'd never recorded in my home before, and my dining room table where we were going to put the mics was too thick to put the mics on. The attachments of the mic didn't fit on the table. And we're also stressed because the videographers, obviously it's their first time working with me. They're feeling bad that their reputation isn't looking really good, that the mics don't fit. I'm stressed because I have this guest who I've never met coming from freaking Berlin to come be interviewed on the podcast. Trying to figure out the light in the room because I've never filmed there before. It was stressful. And the solution that we actually found was balancing part of the mic stand on a bin and a stack of books, and attaching the attachment part of the mic onto wooden chopping boards and weighting them down with heavy vases of water. So if you actually go back and watch that episode, you'll see that the mics are actually balanced on chopping boards. So that is the ingenuity of the Finding Your Casual Magic team. Yeah, and then Coralia arrived halfway through when we were still setting up and still figuring it out, and she was just an angel and so patient. She just waited in the living room, and it was so hot that day, and it was just not the ideal shoot day at all. But we made it work. And before I get to my insights on that episode, I just want to quickly speak to the sleepover I have with Coralia, because she ended up coming on a really emotional weekend in my life. It was the weekend that I posted my queer story video, my coming out video. And as someone who has come out to their parents and their friends and everyone in their close life, I literally have a girlfriend. I've really done so much work to overcome internalized homophobia. I really thought that I wouldn't be that affected by posting that queer story video. But my God, I was so wrong. I was so wrong. I hovered over the upload button for about 2 hours, and I felt so tight and so terrified. And Coralia came in to my little office room and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not okay." And I just burst into tears. And Coralia, who I literally had met yesterday, just held me as I was crying. And that was a huge theme of that weekend, was her holding me through the fear, the lingering internalized homophobia that came up for me. Thousands of people unfollowing me in the wake of knowing that I'm queer. It was really, really heavy. It was a really, really heavy weekend. And I feel like I really bonded with Coralia because I let her see that side of me, and she just held me through it in a really beautiful way. I think it's just important to honour your humanness even around people you've just met, and that the more you open up, the more other people will also open up in return. And if you guys didn't know, she has created this entire beautiful journal called The Daily Deep. It's one of the most beautifully designed journals I've ever witnessed in my life, and it has structured journaling prompts to help you get to know yourself better. So I interviewed her about journaling, how best to journal, and some of my insights were understanding the different types of journaling. So understanding that there's a free flow, brain dump of your subconscious train of thought, similar to morning pages, if you ever heard of that, where you just wake up and brain dump, free flow. Or there are these more structured types of journaling where you're asked question prompts and you just respond. Or there's even non-verbal journaling. So colouring, being able to express your thoughts through artwork could also be seen as a form of mindful journaling. And a perspective shift that I had from her about journaling, particularly structured journal prompts, is that your journal can be like the friend that you don't have in person. Coralie explained how we're all in different social bubbles. We don't even realise it, but the people around us have a limited worldview, as we all do. They all have certain biases, certain perspectives. And because people can only really ask you questions based on their own life experiences and things that they have personally been curious about, there are limitations to the questions that you're going to be asked by the people in your life. But what journaling prompts do is they ask you questions that your friends or family may never ask you. They get you to introspect in new ways. They hold your hand through parts of yourself you may never have even looked at. And I think that's such a beautiful incentive to journal and to know yourself more deeply. One of my favourite things Coralie has said is the idea that human existence is suffering. I know it sounds really bleak, but every single one of us, regardless of where we're from, where we grew up, what our family circumstances were like, how much money we have, we all will suffer. It is part of the human experience. We will all experience heartbreak or loneliness or deep sadness, self-criticism, fear, pain, anxiety. It's just life. It's just life. And it's never our fault what has happened to us in the past. It's never our fault how we're feeling today, but it is our responsibility to look at it, to unpack it, to understand ourselves more deeply, to understand why we are the way that we are, why we think the way we think. And journaling helps us do that. Journaling is a wonderful, wonderful tool. If you guys want to learn more about journaling, I highly recommend going and listening to that episode. And she's just also such like a fun, chill light of a human. She's a sunshine human. We love a sunshine human. And then the third episode I recorded with the wonderful Tilly Rose. I don't know if you're familiar with her story, but I feel like every person in my real life who I tell about Tilly's story is just so in awe and moved and knows that they need to listen to this episode because she has experienced such a difficult life. And with experiencing difficulty comes a lot of wisdom and insight. Tilly started experiencing really difficult medical symptoms quite young in life, and it took almost 20 years to finally receive a diagnosis. So she spent 20 years in and out of hospitals. Doctors would bypass her experience as her just being tired or her just being on her period, or, they'd make up all these excuses as to why she was dizzy, why she was fainting, why she was feeling sick. No one in the NHS, no one in the healthcare system really took on her case and said, I am going to do a deep dive and work out what's wrong with you. And so Tilly just endured years of being in hospital, having no idea what was wrong with her symptoms only getting progressively worse, being literally on the brink of death. And her lessons on resilience, on patience, on gratitude when you get to live a quote unquote normal life, right? The gratitude for just being at home rather than being in a hospital. Like, she has so many important reflections, and her thoughts on medical misogyny, on the issues in the healthcare system, on how to improve patient care will always radically change how I view the healthcare system. Like, I will never walk into a hospital, particularly in the UK, and be able to see it the same way again. She's made me consider things like, how do you deal with the trauma of someone in a hospital bed next to you dying? Like, imagine you get to know the person in the hospital bed next to you for a week or 2 weeks or even months if you're both in hospital for that long. If this person passes away, you will feel that death as a traumatic experience. If you worked any normal job and a colleague died, you would be given compassion leave. The company would give you time off to process this deeply emotional experience. But when you're a patient, you're expected to just get on with it. And that's normal. That's a part of being in hospital. And there's just no real mental and emotional care for how difficult it is to be in a hospital environment like that. We talked about how hard it is to be a woman in these settings and how pain is almost assumed to be normal, a normal part of womanhood, and the frustrating politeness that comes with British culture, and how you can't just ever state your symptoms or what you need from a medical professional. You always have to wrap it up in thank yous and sorries, and almost pretending that you're a burden for seeking medical care, like saying sorry for annoying the doctor, saying sorry for all the time you're taking up, for taking up this hospital bed, even though it's literally their job, even though you're suffering and need care. But in line with the message of this podcast, what struck me the most was Tilly's idea of casual magic. I knew that noticing little joys every day was powerful for human happiness, but in the context of Tilly's hospital life, that has taken on a whole new meaning for me. When you are trapped in a hospital bed, you can't go to university, you can't see your family, you're in pain, you can't really move. Let me tell you, it is literal casual magic to receive a hot drink from a nurse. If you've got that one hot drink a day, when your fingers get to clutch around the warmth of this mug, when you feel that hot liquid going down your throat, and just being so aware of all these sensations, this new sensation when you've just been stuck in a room all day, that is something that can transform your entire mood, your entire day, your entire experience. And if a hot drink can mean that much in that context, why can't we all make it mean that much in our everyday normal lives? how lucky we are to experience freedom, how lucky we are to be able to move through this world, to have so many different experiences. We should all just learn to pay more attention to these little things every single day that we take for granted, but we absolutely can and should be grateful for. If you guys haven't already, I highly recommend going and listening to Tilly's episode and the last 2 episodes of the podcast. So much energy and love and research has been poured into them. I just so strongly believe that every episode of this podcast will help you change your perspective on the world. I wholeheartedly believe it, because I know that for me, being in these conversations is changing my perspective on everything. And I feel so lucky to be in those conversations, but also to get to share them with you. I hope that in seeing me start this new endeavor of season 2, embracing the changes, embracing all these new conversations, you can see that the heart of letting go of perfectionism is exploration, trialing new things, letting go of fear. Sometimes we need to release expectations of how we want everything to go, how we think everything should be, and instead embrace what is working, what isn't working, what can we release, and how can we embrace everything that we're being gifted right now. The insights we're being gifted, the reality and truth of the experience as it is, rather than how we wanted it to be in our heads. And I'm so excited to keep releasing my own perfectionism throughout the rest of this season. Who knows where we're going to be? Who knows who we're going to interview? Who knows how the forest setup's going to be? Who knows if the audio will be perfect? Who knows if I'm going to start crying halfway through an episode? Who knows? Who knows? It's all up for debate. It's all up for the exciting wonder and uncertainty of life. And I'm embracing it. I'm excited. Okay, friends, at the end of every episode, I provide you guys with a journal prompt to kind of reflect on the theme of today's episode and to go deeper with yourself. So if you're feeling up to it, feel free to grab your notes app, a journal, or even just answer this in your head, and feel free to pause the episode. This week, I want to ask you, when was the last time I changed my mind about something important? If I had no fear of failure or judgment, what would I change or try next? Do I give myself permission to fail? And I hope you guys can acknowledge that giving yourself permission to fail is giving yourself the opportunity to succeed in ways that you might not even be able to anticipate yet. I love you guys so much. My casual magic today is the sound of the crickets in the background and this beautiful sun, and how lucky I am to have time with my family. It's been a few years since we've been on a family holiday, because I think in adulthood, everyone's just so busy and doing their own thing and living their lives. And yeah, it's really special to be here together. It's not perfect by any means, but it's very special. If you made it to this point in the podcast, I dare you to drop a little comment on how you found the debrief episode. Like, I'm always open to feedback, and do you like it? Is it chill? Do we like the debrief? Do we not like it? Do you want me to add anything to it? Shall I add a section? I'm really open to hearing your thoughts. It would also mean the absolute world if you could subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, whether that's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. These things really do matter, these silly little metric things. So yeah, if you have the chance to do that, it would mean the world. And if no one has told you today, I really hope you remember that you are enough, exactly as you are, perfectionist or not, giving into the sunk cost fallacy or not, giving up or not, wherever you are on your journey, right here, right now, you are enough. And a past version of you would be so proud of who you are today. Okay, guys, I love you. Have a gorgeous rest of your week. See you next week in the wonderful yurt space. And stay tuned and stay magical.